Hi you guys. So I hope that my video doesn't end up making you seasick because I can't make any guarantees. So this is my kefir that I keep in the fridge. It's the grains. You can see the grains kind of at the bottom down there. I'll show them to you in just a minute. But when you're not using your kefir grains, you want to put them in milk, and then you put the lid on it and you screw the lid down tight. And then I'm going to drain that milk off to start making a new batch of kefir. And I'm going to just drain it in my colander here. This is going to have to be a two-part video because my kefir takes 24 hours to make. And so I'll have to come back and show you the second half where it's all done and then what I do with that. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to have to put my phone down here while I unscrew the lid. Hold on a minute. Here, we'll go like that, maybe. Okay, so I'm just gonna unscrew the lid, and sometimes you'll hear like a pop noise, and that's just the pressure from inside the jar, which is normal. Oh yeah, see, hear that? Okay. So I'm just gonna pour it into a colander. You wanna make sure that you use things that are non-reactive. So you want to make it in glass bottles is the best. Canning jars are easy. You can wash them and reuse them. Plastic is not great to use because it's got like little divots in it and can harbor bacteria. So glass is the best thing to use, but you can use plastic if you need to. I have a plastic colander, which is also the best to use. If you don't have one, then a metal one is fine, but I'd try to avoid it if you can. It can end up killing the kefir grains. Oh, sorry, I just totally didn't show you what I dumped out. Okay, so you can still see that there's a couple little grains down in there. I'll get those out later because I'm not double-handed, so, or triple-handed, I guess. Anyway, so this is what the kefir grains look like. They kind of look like cottage cheese is probably the best. They're a little rubbery. You can like move them in between your fingers to make them smaller. You can also eat the kefir grains if you want, but you don't have to. You can put them in smoothies and things like that. They're just the exact same as kefir. So the kefir grains are Scooby or Scoby. I'm not sure how they pronounce that, but it's a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And so they feed off the lactose in the milk. There's also kefir water grains that you can get, which are a completely different one. So these ones need lactose in order to survive. You can do them in coconut milk too. You can do them in goat's milk. I don't do, Penny's allergic to coconut milk, and I hate goat's milk, so we just do regular old milk. And because we drink ours every day, and we drink quite a bit every day. Well, I drink a big cup. I'll show you. This is what I drink every day. It is a smoothie with my kefir in it. And I drink that every day. So I make 2 cups of kefir for me, and if I'm making it for my whole family, I use 4 cups of kefir. Then I add banana and fruit, frozen fruit and stuff like that. Anyways, so the ratio on this of what you will use, so the kefir grains, they'll actually reproduce. So you grow the kefir, which Blake thinks is disgusting, by the way. But so you'll grow the kefir grains. So you want to use 1 tablespoon of kefir grains per 2 cups of milk. Because we use so much, I use 5-quart jars, and it makes 1 gallon of kefir. So I just use like my gallon of milk, and I split it into 5-quart jars, and I use this, and I kind of eyeball it because I know what it's supposed to look like when it's done. But when you're first starting, the best way to do it is to just use a tablespoon per 2 cups. So I'm going to divide that up real quick. I'm going to set you down again here and make it, maybe kind of awkward. Here we go. So I just divide it up into my 5. But you guys will you could use a measuring spoon. That's how I did when I first started it, just because it makes it the easiest to know that you're not doing anything wrong. So you want when you get the kefir grains in, you're gonna add the milk to it. And when you add the milk, then you're going to let it sit for 24 hours. But you can also let it sit for up to 48 hours. I prefer to only do it for 24 because it starts to get carbonated, and I don't like carbonated milk. I think it's kind of gross. So, like if you ever have water kefir is carbonated, kind of like soda. So the bacteria in the bacteria and yeast in the kefir grains eat away at the lactose, and that's their offshoot of it. Anyways, hold on one second. Let me get these in here and then I'll show you. Okay. Except I dropped some kefir on my top. Oh! Hey! Sorry. It's first thing in the morning. I don't have any makeup on, so hopefully you saw my lovely face and nose. Jeez. Okay, so I got my grains all in my jars. Oh, there's my other one. I got my grains all in my jars. When you're draining the milk off of your kefir grains that you have left in the fridge, you want to make sure that you just pour the milk down the sink. I don't ever use it just because I don't know how much it's cultured. So, and then I just fill this up. Just fill up all these. And normally when I store my kefir, I store it back in the gallon that I used. But once I've used the gallon one time, I throw the gallon away. So I don't continuously reuse the same gallon bottle. But because we go through it so quickly, I'm not as worried about it for collecting bacteria. I figure that's where the milk came from. It's probably fine for, the week that it's doing it. So if it's easier for you to do it that way, then you can do it that way. My friend uses half-gallon jars for hers to store it in her fridge. But I am concerned about my kids knocking the jars out of the fridge and breaking them. So you continuously reuse the same kefir grains. You'll just use them over and over and over again, and then they produce more and more. Okay, so I've got all my milk in it, and I've got the kefir grains in it. Now the kefir grains, they settle to the bottom. It's a little hard to see in these. They settle to the bottom, but as they eat away at the lactose, they will float to the top. And you can stir them with a spoon if you want to, but normally I just leave mine alone, and they do just fine. So I put a lid on the top, but you don't want to put a screw top lid on because they're getting rid of the pressure. They need to be able to have somewhere to vent. If you don't want to use one of these, you can also use a coffee filter with like a rubber band. Mostly this is so that bugs don't get inside of the, I gotta find my other big lid. It's mostly so that bugs don't, float down in it and try to eat some of your milk. And then I just put it in the corner of my countertop. So you want to keep it in a cool place. You don't want to put it in the sun, because if you put it in the sun, it'll kill the kefir grains. So I just store it over here, and it'll sit for 24 hours in my kitchen. I've got to find a lid for this one. But it'll sit for 24 hours in my kitchen, and then I'll come back tomorrow and I can show you what it looks like when it is done, so that way you can get a good idea about it.